Thank you all very, very much for turning up to our second tech night. This one on water-cooled cars. Basically going to touch on a lot of servicing and what to look for on your, what I call later model water-cooled cars. Starting with 996, underneath a 986 and a 996, so 986 Boxster, 996 Carrera. Very, very similar in terms of suspension, brakes, all of that sort of stuff. Little simple things. These, compared to the air-cooled cars, these have a lot more overhang. So when I say overhang, I'm talking about distance between the centre line of the front wheels and here. So you find that on a lot of these cars, this whole area here, cops are pounding. And it's the same with the back. And you can have a look at this car later on. They've got a lot more overhang, so that they tend to clout driveways. So you find that all of these plastics here, and this one's pretty good actually, very, very good, but a lot of this stuff, if you are looking to buy one, a lot of this stuff's always torn off or damaged. In terms of suspension, the things that we do see from time to time, your McPherson strut rubber top mounts all tend to wear. So you get a bit of play and movement, or you get a groan. So they get dirt, road grime, dirt and all that sort of thing up in the bearing. There's a bearing that sits just up there and it cops a lot of abuse. So when you're turning your steering, you hear groany sort of a noise. That's to do with your strut tops and your strut top bearings. All Boxsters and 996s and Caymans all have these. And this one I prepared earlier. So this one actually fell apart on a poor customer, which is not great. The most noticeable, you'll be driving along and concrete roads are the best for it. So you get the big joins in a concrete road. When you're driving on a concrete road and you've got the join, when you drive over those joins, you hear a really loud knock, like clunk, 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 clunk. It's this joint rattling inside. Worst case is it breaks, it comes apart like that. Now it won't fall out, but it'll become very floppy all of a sudden and the steering becomes quite imprecise and you tend to tear the tyres apart. I'm not trying to harp on and say these are bad cars because they're not. They're actually quite a good car, but these are the common things that you see. So the cars that we've seen fail have had a water pump failure, and unfortunately when the water pump fails on these, it's a very, very long time before you actually get a warning light because of the way that the temperature sensor is positioned. When there's no water, it doesn't show temperature, you see. So of course it's overheating, but you're not seeing it for a very, very long time. And by that stage, the damage unfortunately has been done. You're cruising down the road. The first thing you'll probably hear is the squeal of the belt because it's coated in coolant and the pulleys, the bearing on the pulleys fail, but by that stage it's lost most of its water and the temperature gauge is not quick enough to react. And look, it's not going to happen all the time. It could happen. I think it's cylinder 3 or 6. One of them is prone to hot spots because of the way that the water flows through the block and all of that, the case and everything. The other thing that can happen, because it's overheated, the valve seat in the cylinder head drops out, like it drops the valve seat. But that's literally because the thing's been cooked to an inch of its life. And you know, I don't care what car you're driving, at the end of the day, if you drive any car and you cook it, it's going to do some form of damage. So that's just, unfortunately, par for the course. It could happen to anybody and anything, you know. They do heaps more of it in the UK than they do here. We don't seem to see it here. Like I've seen 2 cars, out of all of the cars that we look after heaps of them, I've only ever seen 2 of them scratch a bore or chunk a bore. And I reckon both of those cars had significant overheats. You can't track it with race tyres, it says it in the handbook. But we can, I know you can make them live, but you've got to spend, it is a considerable amount of money, but you've got to put the 2 litre extended deep sump with all the baffling and the different pickups. You really should run a smaller underdrive crankshaft pulley because what happens at big revs, the water pumps in them cavitate and they stop pumping the water efficiently. And they also need a motorsport air oil separator because they run 2 massively, completely different chambers, and it seems to be stopping that issue as well. And then in worst case, if you're going to run it in December at a track day like you stole it for hours and hours and hours on end, a centre radiator. So this area in here, most automatic transmission cars have this and an extra radiator in here, but you can buy it as a kit and you can put it in and you put that worst case, if you're going to run it in December, I'd recommend that you put it's a third radiator really in there. So there's a lot more aftermarket stuff around for these than there is for air-cooled cars. There's there's not a lot of stuff around for air-cooled cars as such. There's bits of these camshafts and springs and that, but these there's just about everything. A lot of people do cam 996s, but I don't think it's justified. I do like them as a car. I think they're not that bad. It's just
at the end of the day, they've got 300 or 320 horsepower. And if everyone thinks back, it wasn't too long ago a 993 RS had 300 horsepower and everyone went, oh wow, how good's this thing? Yeah. And I can tell you what, they handle better than a 993 RS.
I remember someone in the Porsche club saying when water-cooled turned up for the first time, that was the end of the 911. But probably everybody in this room has a last ever 911 because the one after that wasn't as good as theirs. Truth be told, Porsche sold more than twice as many, and in actual fact, I think I'm right in saying this, although there are more 997s out there because it was a longer run, 996 was a more prevalent sale. So it was the first time that the car became a serious gentleman's Grand Tourer sports car. It covered both. You could put some wine in the back, you could put enough luggage, you could put mountain bikes on the top and you could actually go somewhere. And Porsche was surprised by how many people who bought them, mostly from a Mercedes-Benz and BMW background. So that was the 996. Lots and lots got sold. I think Scott touched on a really important point just a moment ago, that spending $40 or $50 or $60,000 on something like this actually buys you a 911 that you can get into, you can take your family, you can take your kids, and you can drive it to work every day or keep it in the garage. You know, it's something you can actually use and enjoy. You don't have to be the best driver in the world just to drive one across Sydney. You know, it actually offers sensible value for money and is within reach of an awful lot of people. The more people it's in reach for, the more these things will move up in value.